Alright, so in this video we are going to learn how to use zeros to write a function. So if you're given the zeros or you're given the solutions, which remember are also x-intercepts, how can you then turn that back into a quadratic function? Alright, so here's our zeros. X equals 2 and x equals -1. So step 1, set both equal to 0. Okay, so in order to set them both equal to 0, I'm going to have to subtract 2, so I can say x minus 2 equals 0. And then I'm going to add 1, so I can say x plus 1 equals 0. So it's kind of like I'm unsolving the equation. Okay, then put them back together. So now I'm going to put them back together as factors. So I write them x minus 2, x plus 1 equals 0. The third step is I'm going to go ahead and multiply. So if I use FOIL or use a table to multiply and then combine like terms, so I am left with this. And then the last step is that I'm going to then write it as a function because I was asked to use the zeros to write a function. So I write f of x equals x squared minus x minus 2. So you can see it's backwards. So from here I would get my zeros, but instead I'm going to start with the zeros and I'm going to go down to function notation from the zeros. Now I could plug this into a graphing calculator or Geometry Sketchpad and make sure that this gives me zeros of x equals 2 and x equals -1 to make sure I did it correctly. Alright, so if you think you have this, I want you to go ahead and pause the video and try it on your own. And then come back and see if you did it correctly. If you're still not exactly sure about this process, then go ahead and watch this example through. Okay, so welcome back if you paused. What you're going to do, write a quadratic equation with the functions of 5, with the zeros of 5 and -5. So there's my zeros. Now remember, I'm going to turn them both back into equations, so unsolve them. Then I am going to multiply them together and put them back as one function. And then finally, my last step is to write it in function notation. Because remember, I'm trying to get a function. So it should always be in standard form. Your final answer should be function notation in standard form. And hopefully you see this is actually the difference of two squares. So when you have the difference of two squares, your zeros are always opposites of each other. And so since I started out with opposites, it ends up being the difference of two squares.